Hey guys, welcome back to Duffey Woodcraft. This week I'm going to show you how to make a really high-end product that you can give as a wonderful gift to somebody who lives on a special body of water like a lake or a river, or something you can sell online as well. Okay, first of all, I'm going to have the full video tutorial of how to do this on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in a deep dive into this, go to my videos and check out the full tutorial on my channel. It's going to show you how to do this with any body of water, a lake, a river, whatever works for you and for your special project. Now, as a quick high-level overview for this project, what I did is I went to the USGS, I got the depth charts for this lake, and then I went to Google Maps and took a screenshot of the map. I came in here and then used the freehand drawing vectors to basically outline the map, do the roads on the map, and then using the depth chart, do just some generic circles to around where the depths are. And then using my toolpaths is what creates that depth. So those were all done on our 1/8 inch slim gin bit from Cadence Manufacturing. The next bit, we switch over to the V60 bit to do a V-carve on the Sylvan Lake, the compass around the state of Minnesota where this lake is located, and then you'll see these two stars. Both stars here have purpose. This one is for where the lake is located inside of the state, and this star is where the cabin that this project is going to is located. Next, profile. So I did a profile of the roads in the area. Then I did a profile around the state of Minnesota, and the final is back to that 1/8 inch bit to do a cutout of the project so that I know it's perfectly square for when I frame this up. Now that we have all of these profiles done, we'll save them and then we'll go cut it out on the CNC. I cut an oversized piece of red oak because my piece will cut out the final dimensions, and then I zero up the bit and start the file on the CNC. The CNC is going to run for about 30 minutes and only about half of the project file right now, as I'm going to cut just the lakes first so I can fill them with epoxy. As you can see, the Ginny bits just cut through this wood like butter. I am continually surprised and super impressed of how amazing these bits are. I really do recommend them. If you use code DUFF5 at checkout, you'll get a little discount. This week's video is sponsored by Wisebond Epoxy. I don't work with a company unless they really do make a superior product. Wisebond is a small business out of Florida, and I'm really excited to work with them. Their product really is one of the best epoxies on the market. And yes, I know there are tons of other ones out there, but these don't yellow over time. They're crystal clear when you need it, and they don't crack from overheating as well. So I really love this product. Next, I'm going to use the vacuum chamber to pull out all the bubbles out of the epoxy so it's crystal clear. You don't have to use a vacuum chamber. If you use deep pour epoxy, for example, it takes a long curing time and the bubbles will come up, but you'll have to sit there continuously popping them. With the vacuum chamber, it quickly pulls out all of the epoxy or all the air, and as you can see, it comes out crystal clear. Blowing out any of the remaining dust and then doing a continuous pour through all of the pockets. That way I don't introduce new bubbles during the pour. Over to the drum sander now that the epoxy has cured, just to bring it back down to level. Now it's back over to the CNC for the final details. A little trick I do to make sure that everything is lined back up is I've added this arrow to tell me which direction the piece is going, plus in every corner I've drawn this little rectangle for the corners. This tells me how to line it back up so I know that exactly where the zero center was back on the CNC so I can get it perfect. We'll do its remaining about 30 minutes to cut out all the roads and to do the V carving of the name and the compass. And then I'll switch back to the 1/8 bit to do my down cut to cut out the final profile. This ensures that I have a completely square piece ready for the frame. So I'm going to use this spray shellac here to fill in everything I just carved and then let it dry. What that's going to do is it's going to seal up that end grain to stop the epoxy from slowly seeping into the rest of the grain. I'll make another small batch of epoxy using black pigment and then put that back into the air chamber to pull out all of the bubbles. Since my project is already at its final dimensions, I'm going to use some tuck tape around the edges to make sure that the epoxy doesn't drip down, causing me to have to do another cut. I'm just using my stir stick that I made the epoxy with to dribble in all of the epoxy into the roads and the name of the lake. Once it's cured, I'll pull off the tape again and run it through the drum sander to get everything perfectly flat. Now it's off to create the frame for this project. I'm using some walnut that I got from Goey Walnut. Thank you so much. I do have to say, I am not the greatest when it comes to making frames. It's a skill I need to perfect, so I'm working on that myself. I first cut down the walnut to the right length and then turn it on its side and do the right thickness. And yes, that is some burning coming from the saw, which means I do need to change this saw blade. The final dimensions should be exactly 12, but I'm going to mark them on the piece just to make sure the wood hasn't moved since it's been cut. Then I'll cut them down to size with the miter saw and run it through the drum sander to make sure it's flat after making sure everything fits properly. And then it's off to final sanding, which means it's time for this week's Sanding Thoughts with Duffey Woodcraft. Did you know Minnesota is called the land of 10,000 lakes? Well, it's actually closer to 11,842 lakes, but that only brings it to the third most lakes in the United States per state. Wisconsin has over 15,000 lakes, and Alaska has an estimated 3 million lakes, covering about 5% of the state's total land area. With my orbital sander, I took the sanding up to 220 grit, and then I'm using this finishing sander from Surf Prep to bring this up to 1,000 grit. That's really going to make the epoxy super clear once the finish is on. Then it's just assembling the frame with glue and clamping it all together. After the glue is dry, I'll go ahead and sand off all of the residue and just make sure it is perfect, do a water pop and do a final sanding, and then I'll add the hardware mounting on the back of the piece. This project is going to my uncle and aunt, so I'm actually lasering in a special little message on the back along with my logo. For the finish, I'm using Deft Semi-Gloss. This takes 3 coats on each side of the project to make a perfectly smooth finish. And there you go, the project is complete. This project took me just about 4 days to complete in total, between the carving, the epoxy curing, the finish curing, and everything in between. So let's talk about costs on this project. This project, the red oak cost $17 for the board foot, and I used 1 board foot of it. The walnut border, it cost me about $7.50, and I used about between 1/4 and 1/2 of a board foot. I don't have the exact amounts there. Epoxy is $5 worth of epoxy. A finish and consumables, another $5, bringing my total cost to $34.50. I spent 1 hour on the CNC and about 5 human hours building this project. So selling this project, I would definitely not sell this project at a craft fair. These are unique, customizable pieces that are high in value. So something like this, if I was to sell on my website, customized with your lake and your home location, I would be selling this starting at about $200 on my website. Thanks again for watching, guys. I have new project videos coming out every 2 weeks, so if you're interested, make sure you're subscribed and give me a like on this video. It really helps my channel grow. Also, leave me comments of what you think of this project, anything that you would do differently, or other projects you would like me to see do on this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great one. Bye-bye.